Welcome, class, to our first lesson on APA style. The first step is to open up a tab on your computer to Purdue OWL or Purdue Online Writing Lab. Select APA style, scroll down the page, and you'll see a number of tabs such as in-text citations, the basics. Now, the main difference between APA and MLA is that APA expects the date as well. So, for instance, when you're going to do a split citation, you would list the author and the year the article was published, your quote, followed by the page number or paragraph number. If you do the entire citation at the end, you would write Jones, 1998, page 199 in parentheses. As well, if we look at our list, author or authors, if you have a question about work by 3 to 5 authors or work by 2 authors, how would you write it? Or if you have a work by more than 6 authors or no author listed, what to do? This is your backup. Going back to the list, you'll see reference, basic rules, references about authors, periodicals, books, other sources, electronic sources, and so on. We'll be looking mostly here at electronic sources. Now, you've got the tab open. Let's go to our class. You'll see all of our units listed. We've completed our literary studies, and we're going to move on to research skills. So let's open the folder, and you'll see APA Rules and Practice at the top. Let's open up this folder. Now, number 1 is a summary of the key information on the website Purdue OWL. So you can use this as your information source or the website. I've also included a little PowerPoint reviewing the main tips for APA. And then we get to our practice sheet. Let's open that. Now, on page 1 of the practice sheet, I've given you an example. The title is First Fossil Skulls of Anteaters from Northern South America, a taxonomic reassessment and discussion of diversification. Authors, 2 of them. You've got a link or a URL, and you have a DOI, which is a digital object identifier, which is very handy because every article has only one DOI. So it's even easier to find a link to the article than using a URL. I've given you the first paragraph of the article, and I've showed you how to integrate some of the quotes. So, for example, a front tag, my own words, little is known about the origins of South American anteaters because of, quote, the fragments and geographically biased nature of the fossil record for this group. The citation, last names of the authors in the order they were presented, using an ampersand or the and symbol, the year it was published, the paragraph number, and notice para, period, space, 1, and the period for the whole thing at the very end. Here is an example of a split citation. So we've listed the authors using the full word and with the date followed by the quote, and of course we have to give the page number, or paragraph number, I should say. And then lastly, I've shown you, and this is simply review from MLA, ellipsis points or the 3 dots. They show that we've cut out some information, and the square brackets show us that I've either altered or added a word to the quote. Now, moving on to page 2. This is where we do some practice together. Notice this is an article titled Rohingya Repatriation Efforts Fail Again. It was published in 2019. Again, we're using an online database, Gale in Context, Global Issues. There's the link, and I've given you 3 paragraphs to select your quotes from. So I would stop the video here for a moment and review the paragraphs and think about what lines you might use as a quote. Having read the article, I now look at the question. Number 1 asks to blend your words or your tag at the beginning with a quote. So I selected the phrase, Myanmar's government would need to provide returnees with citizenship, greater rights, and improved security. So here is my example. So my words in black, for the successful repatriation for Rohingya, the Myanmar, quote, government would need to provide returnees, blah, 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 blah. Then in blue, I have my citation. And because we don't have an author for this article, we move the title to first place, followed by the year and the paragraph number with the period at the end. Number 2, you could take virtually the same quote and just flip the wording. But remember, the citation is glued to the end of the quote. Oops, and I just noticed something. We missed a quote. There we go. And then number 3, you would use ellipsis points and square brackets. So take some time, work on those, and then we'll move on to the next section. Okay, on the next page, we have an article called Fluoridation. We have an author, Nicholas Thomas. This was also published in the Gale Encyclopedia of Science. And publication date, and a URL, and a paragraph. So read through the paragraph, select the quotes that you want to use. In this case, I chose the line in red about the moral issues of personal rights that are raised by the addition of chemical substance to an entire city's water supply. And I blended them together to create this sentence. Fluoridation is controversial because of the moral issues of personal rights, etc. Citation, author's last name, year, paragraph number. Now, I want you to continue on and do question 2 and 3. Now, you won't use all the school's databases all the time. So this article I found on the internet, and it was called The Brain, and it was produced by the National Geographic Society, and it was last updated in 2016. But it doesn't list an author. So, after reading the paragraph, I chose the phrase, a jelly-like mass of fat and protein, to describe the brain. And I blended it into my own words, but I wanted to do a split citation. So I wrote, according to the National Geographic's website, brain, and I want to add my title or date, 2016. The brain is a jelly-like mass of fat and protein, and I list the paragraph number. Now try another example, and then we are going to move on to creating a reference list for all of these articles.